We thought it might be a good way to give you all a chance to see kind of what we're working on in our design studio without boring you with long, intense presentation that you fall asleep through. So what we've done is have 10 people here that are going to present 10 projects, 3 minutes each, 6 slides apiece, so 30 seconds a slide. The slides are going to change automatically, and so there's I think a 5-second transition between people where their name will come up and they'll know they're supposed to talk, and then they've got 3 minutes and then it's done. So we're going to move it along, and then afterwards, if you've got questions and Mark Nelson looks at this and says, I can't build that, then we can talk about that afterwards. So don't stop anybody for questions in the middle, because there's no time for it. So we're going to get started, and thank you very much. So. No? There's nothing?
The laser, the pointer. So 9200 Wilshire, it's a project in Beverly Hills with New Pacific Realty. We got an interview and beat out a couple other firms for it. 52 units, 1,900 square feet of retail roughly, and 3 levels of subterranean parking. And that rendering is actually an in-house rendering that we worked on with one of our interns who isn't here anymore, Miguel. Wow, I thought 30 seconds was real fast. Anyway, so, okay. So the conceptual site plan, we have Wilshire Boulevard right here. 2 streets on either side and an alley in the back, so it's almost a perfect city block. The dark red is all retail. We're trying to front Wilshire as much as we can with the retail. We have a residential lobby shown in yellow over here off the side street. Again, we're trying to push the retail to the front as much as we can, so we pulled the residential lobby to the back. We have parking structure entries here and here. The retail and guest parking is subterranean coming from this side. The resident, and we're moving on. The resident parking was over here. This is a basic building plan. Pretty simple U-shaped building. Southern exposure in the courtyard. We have a club room here, which is 2-story volume with the roof deck above. We have a couple of amenity spaces up here. We designed it in such a way where all the units would be living off either the courtyard or the street front. And these are some pretty big units. The market in Beverly Hills, as you can imagine, isn't gonna... So this is a ramping diagram with how we work the parking out in order to separate the retail and guest parking shown in red, and then the resident parking shown in yellow. So it's 1.5 levels each. So you're coming in retail, circling under, and back here, if you're, exactly, DNA style. And then the resident parking's coming from this side. You get your nice 200-foot long, 20% ramp to get down there. These are a couple of the typical unit plans. There's more than just these, but you can't really read the room dimensions, but to give you an idea, our biggest plan, the plan 3, is over 2,200 square feet for 3 bedrooms and a flat. And they want to rent that. It's going to be rental in the beginning. It's going to move to condos when the market goes for it. But they want to rent that for over $8,000 a month. Master bedroom, 14 feet by 21 feet. It's huge. So this is, we did 2 elevations. And when I say we, I mostly mean Brian and Jessica helped us out on the elevations with this thing. We did a more traditional one up top and a more contemporary one on the bottom. Presented them both to the client. They want to go with this more traditional scheme, which I think they're both nice. We put more time into the traditional scheme, so it probably looks a little better, and that's why they want to go with it. But we've only designed the front, and in the coming weeks/months, we're going to wrap the building and finish this off and present to the city. Yay. Wow, it's hard. Harder than I thought.
All right, so this is, we're going to talk about a project called Spanish Hills. It's part of a Springville-specific plan in the city of Camarillo. We're working on a couple different projects here in Camarillo. We're doing all this stuff for someone. We're doing this for another client. We've been promised that we're going to do that little senior housing piece when it starts. And then the site we're going to talk about is this piece right here. So we're trying to do a whole monopoly and do all the projects on this side eventually, if that works out. This is that specific site. Something interesting about Camarillo, they have kind of a growth limit. So even during 2008, 2009, we've been working on planning projects there because it takes so long to get housing allocations and approvals. So there's sort of a backlog for housing even in this downturn. So we've been working on some of these for quite a while. So we have like 382 units, I think. It's all 3-story stacked flat apartments. All the buildings are, I get to go again. All the buildings are based on 4 units, serving 1 stair with 1 exit, kind of that new code change that allows that. We had to do a lot of massaging on the site to get it to work because there's a 25% coverage requirement. And we were initially obviously over that. We kept having to figure out how to make the building footprint smaller and smaller to meet that. I think it has to do something with an airport nearby, and I think they want space for planes to land between buildings, so they don't want the sites to crash.
To crash between buildings.
Yeah. So this is just a typical building plan that shows we're trying to get as many units as we can, stacking kind of a smaller footprint than previously we've done with the bigger motor court apartment buildings. So the city kind of preferred this site layout where there was these smaller little pods of buildings. They thought that looked nicer and looked like it was lower density than it was. These are kind of the typical elevations that go with it. For better or worse, Camarillo is very, very strict in what they expect architecturally. So don't even think about trying to do mid-century modern or something. They have a 300-page booklet that's going to tell you what the styles are supposed to be, and there's like 4 choices. This is one of them. So even putting the brick on was like a big deal, and we had to send up some big mock-up pallets of brick with the grout and everything to the city to look at. And these are some of the clubhouse elevations. The city wanted to see some similar projects that had brick and similar detailing, so we gave them a list of projects, and I guess the planning director and a bunch of city staff from Camarillo was going to take some tour and go all over Irvine and look at projects, and I guess they billed out to the project application fee for this project to go tour around and see what the architecture looks like. I think we're in the 23 or 24 per acre, maybe 25 if we get to add a few units. Go.
Okay, I'm going to be talking about Riverview Parcel 4, and a lot of you have already worked on this and are very familiar with it, so it's not going to be a big surprise. But this is an old project that was started in 2007 and was submitted for a PD permit in 2008, along with 2 other parcels that are right next to it in San Jose. And then they kind of redid it, kept the building diagram the same, and kind of started a lot of it from scratch in January, and we're working on it still now. So this is the old plan that was from 2008, and so it was 297 units, and we've gone to, this is the new plan, 271, but the building diagram is basically the same. It's a wrap building, which we don't do a lot of, so it's been, it's had some code issues that we've been working through with Jim. But like one of the major changes was that the entry moved to this side, which is kind of the more Main Street side, and the elevation changed pretty significantly. We redid all the units. It's shorter now. It was 5 levels plus a mezzanine, and now this is the new building, and it's 4 floors, no mezzanine, and the elevation massing changed pretty much completely. We looked for trying to build some larger pieces, like get some larger masses, and focus on kind of 2 different balcony details, this kind of bridge piece and then kind of a cutout sort of piece. There were repeats around the building, and tried to keep the building elevation pretty simple because well, they want the building to be really nice, and they have high hopes for it to be a well-designed building. They're very cost conscious, so the majority of the building is pretty simple, and then we focus a lot of attention on the main lobby. This is the main entry lobby. This is a couple of, come in from in here, and this is a double height space, and then there's another double height space up on the 3rd floor. So this entry has been kind of one of our focus elements. We've added some wood material and tried to really open up that to be a real amenity to the building. And then the planning staff had asked that we use some of those same elements on the garage. This is kind of one of the latest things we've been working on. So So this has been an interesting process because while we've been designing it, it's also been in CDs. So while we're hoping to get planning approval next week, they're also in plan check and planning to be building in September. So it's been an interesting process, but I think it's going to turn out well. So thank you.
Okay, so I'm presenting 650 Glebe Road, and this is a project we're working on with Tyson's Corner, and our client is Crimson Partners. And the project's in Arlington, Virginia. And one of the, it's a 65-unit building, 5 stories over a 2-story podium, and it has 2 levels of subterranean garage below that. Here's the typical ground floor, which has residential units on the ground floor, as well as the leasing and amenity space. What's kind of cool having that 2-story podium level, it allows us to have loft units at the ground floor, which were pretty cool to design. So we had loft units that were pretty flexible, where you could have your sleeping area up in the loft and having that whole ground floor for your living area, or you could have your sleeping down low and have some space for guests or an office upstairs. I guess one of the challenges in designing the elevation for this building was the site constraints and the program. It was almost like